fellow gardeners. This is Beverly with Granny Geek Gardens, and today we're going to do my April garden tour. Um, I've decided I'm going to break it into two halves. Today we'll do the front part of the house, which is my zones 1 and 2, and the next time I have a chance, which will probably be 2 or 3 days, I'll do the back part, which includes the garden area. So let's get started. Okay, as we go up the front walkway, the first thing you'll probably notice is there are a lot of plants that need to be planted. I intended on planting up these 2 big pots today, but it was either do the April video or plant the pots. I know I don't have the energy to do both, so we're doing the video. Got a whole assortment of different plants. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to be putting in there, but I'm sure we'll find some lovelies in this group. I've had a lot of rain again. I'm way behind on a lot of my yard work, as normal. In this garden bed, I have a couple of different things that really need to be divided. I've got a big clump of Shasta daisies, and next to that is a big clump of liatris, and over here I've got 3 big clumps of sedum, all 3 of which need to be divided desperately. The pots along here have an assortment of bulbs. Some of them are pretty well bloomed out. But I need to leave the foliage to store up energy for next season. And some of them are looking fabulous. Now, this rose bush was close to dead 3 years ago. It's one I planted right after I moved into this house 45 years ago. I believe it's called the Love Rose. Anyway, it's just beautiful. But since I've been giving it plenty of TLC the last couple of years, it's just going crazy. Got some more succulents that are doing very well. These aren't quite ready to be divided yet. And I've got 3 trays of ranunculus I've sprouted that are ready to get planted out. And I really should probably try to divide this delphinium. It's been in this pot for 3 years. It just goes insane. I kind of hate to move it because I know I'll lose a lot of blooms this year, but it's just totally overrun the space. And here, in case you've never seen one, is an Oregon slug trap. You put it in your garden, you put some beer in it, the slugs crawl in, and all gone are the slugs. I need to get out the beer and fill those up here soon. And This garden has just gone crazy in the last month. I had to remove a couple of, what was it? Some coneflowers, some astilbe, and I believe a heuchera, so that we could put in a post for the hose link. The bleeding hearts are just phenomenal. And it's heuchera and columbine and hellebore. And this astilbe is one that I transplanted from over on the other side. Got a peony here. Okay, the green stock I decided to completely plant with sweet peas this year. Each level has a different color or type of sweet pea, so I'm real anxious for them to sprout and start doing something. We have some more heuchera, peonies that are getting real close to blooming. And just a huge menagerie. This is kind of my catch-all garden when I buy things that are eventually going to get quite large, but are quite small when I buy them. They tend to go in this garden for a year or two, and then I transplant them out into other locations. The big hellebore, some red-stemmed variegated dogwood, got the first columbine of the season blooming. And a wide assortment of other things. As they get a little larger, we'll take a closer look at them. There's some yucca, quite a bit of liatris in this bed. The star jasmine is coming to life and reaching for the stars, I think. Japanese forest grass. That's another one that I should probably divide a clump or two off of. And the columbine is just going crazy. There's a peony there that can hardly see the light of day because that columbine that was like tiny, tiny last year apparently really likes that spot. There's another small peony, and astilbe, a bright red heuchera. And here's another one of those plants that I planted very small and has taken off and would like to take over the whole garden. And this bed has several columbine, some Shasta daisies. And let's move over to the other side. Oh, I almost forgot. Here's the dreaded weed pile. Nothing really's changed except it's growing. And the cherry tree is looking lovely. Okay. Now this is such a lovely, lovely daffodil. So pretty. A jugula, more columbine. Here's a tiny little bleeding heart that's just getting started. And we've got some big hostas that are going to be coming out right there. More heuchera, weeds, weeds, and more weeds. And here we've got some lilacs blooming. They smell so wonderful. And more columbine. Because this is the month of the columbine. And we've got some astilbe in here. An assortment of different things, but mostly what you can see right now is the foliage from the crocus. They've all, the crocus have finished blooming, but now I have to wait for the foliage to die back before I can clean it up. But meanwhile, we've got some lovely tulips blooming. And I know there are lots of other lovelies that are starting to grow down in that mess of crocus and foxglove. Oh, and isn't that sweet? And the deer apparently like to wander down the street at night, and they have just been chomping on so much of the new growth. And here's one of my big projects that hasn't got done yet. I need to dig up just about all of this stuff and divide it, move it, do something with it. But meanwhile, isn't that lovely? This Nephofia, I would think I should be able to pull out that dead stuff, but it just won't. I'm going to have to dig it out and divide it, I guess, to make it look better. And some more tulips that are just going crazy. And this bed has a few Mount Hood daffodils, has quite a lot of peonies. There are some other lilies that'll be coming along. It's another much smaller peony, a hollyhock, and another peony. I've ordered some cages for these because this one, the flowers are just huge and beautiful. But the past 2 years, they've just flopped and I wasn't able to enjoy them. But for some reason, Gardener Supply seems to be slow in getting my shipment out. I just hope it gets here soon. It's supposed to be here in another 2 or 3 days. And we're back to the bed that has so much stuff that needs to be divided. I know if I don't get these autumn joy sedum divided, they're probably going to flop about the time they bloom. And here's some more tulips. We've got lots of new growth on the hydrangea. And assortment of coneflowers and glads and lilies and things that need to be planted. And another huge autumn joy sedum that's got to be divided. It flopped pretty bad last year, so I know it's going to be a mess this year if I don't get in there and take it apart a bit. Okay, this is the mailbox garden that the neighbor's grass grew into. I've barely got started trying to clean it up. I know there's catnip in there, there's lavender in there, there's coneflowers in there. There's a whole assortment of different lovelies in there that the grass has just taken over. I'm working on it bit by bit. And another lovely heuchera back under the rose bush. And the dreaded pampas grass. Now, I have been working on this. I've probably got about a quarter of this section dug out. I can only work on it a little bit at a time because it's really hard work. And face it, I'm an old lady. And I've probably spent more of my time over the past month in this garden than in any other garden. The daffodils are bloomed out. Got pretty little 4 o'clock just kind of blooming up. And sedum and hydrangeas. And this, I believe, is my new favorite plant. It is a porcelain blue corydalus. It's fragrant. It grows in the shade. It's a perennial. Hardy to minus 20 degrees. It's got interesting foliage. But it's such a beautiful blue. You just don't see that color of blue very often. The hydrangeas in this garden, a couple of them are actually starting to form some small buds. And I did get out 2 of the rose bushes. It was bit by bit by bit, but I got them out. They're planted up in pots in the back until I decide what I'm going to do with them. The one I replaced with a variegated bear's breech. I think it was whitewater bear's breech that I bought a couple months ago. Another hydrangea, lots of heuchera. And the other one, I put a hellebore in its place. I've got a Pomeria that needs to be planted yet, and a couple of small hostas. Oh, these hostas are really interested. I bought them from a place that's no longer around, probably 20 years ago. For most of that time, until the last 3 years, they just didn't do anything. I bought one small pot, and this is all the bigger they get. They don't get any bigger. They're just tiny little, I think they're about 3 inches. And they multiply dramatically if cared for properly. And so I'm going to put a little grouping of them here in the shade garden. And I cut back all the sword ferns, and the fiddleheads are just starting to unfold. I'm going to put another variegated hosta in this area. Now it's interesting. I've got 3 different sword ferns. They were all cut back at the same time. But apparently their environment is different enough in the couple of feet that this one is growing like crazy. And the other 2 are just now starting to unfold. I also planted a couple of hellebores back in this area. And I'm just not quite sure what I'm going to end up doing with this azalea. When I planted it many years ago, the neighbor didn't have any trees and it got a lot of sunlight. Now it's full shade. And for the last 2 years, I've had a terrible time with spider mites with it. I've got to think about it and decide whether I want to keep it or chop it up and get rid of it. Let me know in the comments what you think. So that's it for the front garden tour. I will be posting the back garden tour, including the actual garden, in a few days. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please, if you've not subscribed, think about doing it. I'd really appreciate it. And I'm going to sign off to this beauty of a plant. This is Beverly, Granny Geek Gardens. Take care. Be kind. Bye-bye.